Skiza flow na conversation, essentially speaking.
Hello. Season 2, essentially speaking, back with another episode. So stoked to do this again. And I brought back a season 1 vet, the one, the only, Mr. Andy.
Wahenga, mababu. Hamjambo.
Ukoaje, man?
Niko salama, Noel. It's good to see you. Thanks for having me, bana. Na like hii setup, wacha niseme.
It's an upgrade from
definitely
season 1, eh?
From hizo time tulikuwa
despise your humble beginnings.
Tulikuwa hiyo time ulikuwa kwa Keija.
Yeah, you podcasters in the house, keep doing it, bro. You're doing the right thing. But yeah, it's been a while, and we've had conversations offline about what we'll talk about today, and yeah, we just wanted to jump in. But before we start today's episode, I want to encourage you, if you haven't checked out any episodes, if you're wondering what is this season 1 that he was in, we had some amazing convos as well. Please subscribe if you're listening to this on any audio platform, or if you're watching the visual on YouTube. This is not for our ego or vanity. It helps the algorithm take this to people that want to see it, all right? It makes it seem like, wow, this is really great content, and we hope that it is. So
Yeah.
today we're talking about truth. TRUTH. Terms and conditions apply. We want to talk about truth, and whether truth, I guess the question is truth malleable? Like, is truth this thing that is, it can be true for you,
Yeah.
but I have a different idea about it. And so we'll try and define what truth is, and look at both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Those that believe that truth is not malleable, and those that do. And we've seen so many occurrences in our culture now where I think the existing idea is that truth is malleable, at least for the culture now, online especially. So yeah, I figured let's investigate it. Let's see if it holds water. And so, with everything that you try and talk about, it's great to have the definitions
Yes.
of the masters.
Ni jina kubwa.
I don't know who writes Oxford Dictionary. I don't know. Hopefully they are master in their craft. This is what they say truth is. Truth is that which is true.
Unatumia word kuidefine.
What is that? Who is a boy?
Yes.
It is the one who is a boy.
Yes.
Okay, but let's go further. That which is true, or in accordance with fact or reality. In accordance with fact or reality. And then they define a fact as a thing that is known or proved to be true. So they've kind of used it interchangeably. Like,
So they've used fact to define truth.
Yeah.
And truth to explain what a fact is. Ndio.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think I find it's hard to define what truth is, because it's one of those words that ndio the ultimate nuko mwisho ya definitions.
Yeah.
Like it's a word that you use to explain other things that are real. But anyway, I think I really like the reality bit. Truth obviously has to do with what is real, what exists as something that is real, whether it's a concept, an idea, or an object, whatever. But it's describes a reality,
Yeah.
and helps us to make sense of the world as we know it and as we experience it. So, truth ni mambo ya kudeal na. This is a fact, and this is the reality, and it's put on the table, and then you have to make sense and respond to what is true. So wewe ndio unaamua by assessing what this thing is, what truth is, what is my response to it, whether it's my belief system or my actions.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think you've alluded to sort of a characteristic of truth. You've said it's based on reality. So it's not, is it fair to say it's not based on how I feel?
Yeah. So yes, kuna truths zenye the truth doesn't care.
Yeah.
Truth doesn't care about my dispositions, my orientations, my emotions. Truth just exists as in its own entity, and iko hapo. Sasa mimi ndio wa kuadjust vile nina come around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't haiguzwi. If something is real, it just is
Yeah.
a reality.
Even if I don't believe it to be true, it doesn't change the fact that it's
you know, like a law that exists,
like gravity.
you know, like gravity. My understanding of it, my whether I believe gravity exists or not, if I jump off a cliff, inaningoja tu. Yeah.
Even with a parachute, you still come down.
Yeah, so yeah.
Okay, so we've defined truth. I think another characteristic you've said truth isn't based on your emotions or your feeling, how you feel. Truth is truth. It's based on reality. Another one is truth doesn't change. And I think now, well, I've believed that to be true in all my life. But now more than ever, there is a sense, because we are a culture that wants, we want our voices heard, and we're in different, guys who grew up in the 90s, guys who grew up in early 2000s, and guys who are growing up now, Gen Z, we all want to feel like the truth, there's specific truth for my context and my generation, right? But truth is true regardless of generation. Maybe it's just how it's practiced that's different. At least that's how I see it. But is it fair to be like, no, actually there's truth that's near sahi, but haikuwa applicable kitambo? I don't know what you've interacted with online.
Yes, it's I think culture changes, right?
Culture.
Sindio. No culture is static. Hakuna culture usimama. I've sat in meetings. If I think you've probably interacted with this wave that has sort of come back of us going back to our traditional ancestral worship, for instance. And I've sat in meetings where a certain chief would explain what used to be the custom of the Kikuyu people back in the day, and that this is what was practiced, and we must go back to this and this and that. But the assumption there is that culture was like that forever, right? But it wasn't. Who's to say that what was practiced 100 years ago by your tribe was the same thing that was practiced 200 years ago?
Yeah.
So culture, I think, always is not static and evolves. But then there are some fundamental moral laws. I want to call them moral laws. Things to do with values and duties that are true regardless of the culture, the generation, the time the times that we're living in.
Yeah.
No matter how far back you go. Best case is I find this to be a funny one, but it's true. I mean, no matter how far back you pull back the curtain, it is wrong to kick a sleeping infant.
Yeah. Even if we're in 2047.
Hata tuende AI sijui hata tufike wapi, it's just wrong to kick a sleeping baby, and that remains like just a fundamental moral law. It is there. It is immoral to do that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't change. It's not affected by geography, by generation, by whatever. So those are the objective truths that are eternal.
Yeah.
There are those that are just eternal. And what I find to be interesting is that if ukiangalia reality tu ya maisha, you see these moral laws everywhere. You find these moral values and duties.
Yeah.
Your brush may paint humanity tu yote.
Yeah. For sure.
Which begs the question, and maybe I'm jumping here, but it begs the question, zilitoka wapi?
Yeah.
But ziko.
Yeah. No, we'll jump into that for sure.
Yeah.
I think even one of the things you said offline was, right now we've said truth doesn't change. But another thing you said in passing is that you said truth haijali. Like that's how he said it. Truth haijali. Truth doesn't care, and that's not to make you feel bad, but I think what he was trying to say is truth is truth regardless of how you feel about it. It has no biases, if you will. Like
Yeah.
truth isn't stated so it can favor a certain group of people over another. Truth in its existence is unbiased and does not care for one group or the other. It is just truth. Now, our response is what makes us, become for or against
Yeah.
truth. I think
Well
that's
put. Well
a
put.
really important characteristic of truth. Not just the fact that it doesn't change, but it's not this thing that is biased. Sometimes we look at it like, no, you've decided that's true for you and your group, and it favors you guys. But really, I think it's opposite. It's how we as people respond to what is true that gets us into this for or against thing. Well, I don't look at it like for or against. It's just, do you believe this to be true or not? I think it's just two positions in anything that we're discussing. But historically as well, it's interesting that human beings have always had this innate desire, if you will, to, I want to summarize it as saying, find truth, but
Like seeking truth and
more like meaning. And I think one of the biggest questions across every culture is like, what is the meaning of life? Like, why am I here? Stuff like that. And if you look historically, there were always cultures that did that either believed in the supernatural or believed that there was something beyond this physical world that is true, that gave them meaning. I even see even scripture kind of records this. That famous speech in Acts 17 where Paul goes to the courtyard and he's like, men of Athens, I see you guys you're trying to find this truth. Like they had I think a god with an inscription written to an unknown god.
an unknown God, yeah.
And he's trying to tell them, I can see you're looking for this meaning. Now let me tell you what it is. But that's interesting that even there in that culture, not even if they didn't believe the God of Israel, there was still a sense that there's something beyond us. There's something supernatural that we are trying to attach our value and meaning to. Even if they didn't know it, they wrote to an unknown God. They don't even know who they're writing to.
Yeah.
And it's them who've made it. But I guess going forward, now with how science became a reality for us, where we started finding out things that existed, I don't think they were created, but they were just discovered. Like Isaac Newton, he discovered. He didn't make it. It's not like it wasn't there before. He just discovered that, by the way, there's a law here that's in effect.
And it works,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like mathematics. People discover. You discover how the world works.
Yeah.
It's not that you invented math.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you go like, okay, actually, if you do this is a formula. And I've just realized if you play around with these numbers like this, this works. But it's there. It's been there. You've discovered it. And
that's good. If you're watching this and you are from a colonialist country, you did not discover our country. Okay? It was always there.
Yeah.
You came and saw it for the first time.
Yes.
But we have since trying to move past that. Anyway, go on.
We should do another one on Nini. Actually, it's a very interesting. Anyway, let's
No, let's not rabbit train.
kuna kitu I'm looking into, victimhood.
Yeah.
And the victim culture. So anyway,
that's a good
one. So yes, they are discovered, or even music. No, it's not that it was invented by it's guys who look into, and I think it was consistent with science as well. In fact, the first scientists believed in a higher power.
Yeah.
And believed that wakiangalia reality, the life that they are living, it's indicative of something that is beyond the physical. And it was their attempt to try and understand the created world. They believed in a creator, believed that this world is created, and science is basically trying to understand and make sense of how things work, not necessarily, changing things or discovering. It's just discovering how the universe works.
Yeah.
So I think it was still consistent with Akina, with this early discoveries, and then we came into an age where now science was, really heightened, and discoveries of this and this. Even to say, for example, if I put this and this together, idawa, it works against this disease. You're discovering how the body works, how the body responds to different chemicals. And so it's all a discovery thing, but it came out of a desire to understand the created world, not to go like we are gods in and of ourselves, like we are the creators. It's because kila kitu utatumia in your discovery is already here, and is created, and then we just discover. So God decides, this one now goes into. This one is now, when it comes to now gender issues, Cosma Gatere is the one who said it a few weeks ago. And I thought that is brilliant. God decides, we discover. A kid is born and you say, hey, it's a boy, it's a girl. We're discovering.
Yeah.
But we don't decide.
Right.
We're not the ones who decide.
Yeah.
God decides and we discover.
And I think that's where you talked about it being, there was a desire to know what's been created, like what we have. But there seemed to be a shift, like later on, where we started now putting emphasis on the knowledge that we've discovered. Like you're saying, it's a discovery thing, but it sort of became like, it's me who, like, I thought this up, like I'm super brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think the more that was our disposition, the more there was an abuse of the aspect that we could discover things. We attributed it to our skill set and knowledge, and ended up abusing that which we are supposed to steward. And then secondly, we removed the God equation, where now, because I believe like logic backs faith. And faith goes beyond logic. That's maybe we'll break it down in another podcast. But when you only see things from the scientific point of view, it's very easy to feel like, hey, you know what, this is self-sufficient in and of itself. So there's nothing else outside of this, which I think is what happened to our societies. The more we discovered science, the more we discovered just how the world works in that way, in a way that we could articulate it. Because before it was like, hey, hiyo ni kitu ya Mungu. But now we started seeing, hey, you know actually why the sun sets is because ABCD, EFG, someone could articulate it. And then I would feel like, bro, by the way, this God thing is a lie. It's you. You, the guy who told me that it takes 365 days to do ABC. You're the guy. And you're brilliant. Let's call you professor.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's call you for professor from now on.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where that shift happened. And I think that's how we started viewing truth as it's not factual anymore. Like, it's, you've decided that's how you got to it. Even me, my equation got me here. So as long as we meet ukombele, see, we are both right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But does it now give the case that truth is relative? Would you say?
Well, I think many times in scripture utapata Noel imeandikwa, this word comes up in scripture a lot, remember. Unajua, so remember, God anaambia the children of Israel, bana, kumbukeni ni mimi niliwatoa huko. Now that tumefika hapa, but remember, there's I think it's Deuteronomy that God anaambia, remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to create wealth. Now these guys had gotten to a place where wamefika mahali, wamesettle kwa hiyo land, they're now prospering, right? They're cultivating land ina happen, wana conquer wars na vitu kama hizo, and they came into this land as, you know, bila a lot of things, but now economy inazua, and guys are going, you know. So it's the same thing even with science, because it gets to a place where they forget that the ability to do it, you know, the ability to discover the created world, it is given. Because anawambia, remember the Lord your God, for it is him who gives you the ability to create wealth. So they're looking at the wealth and going like,
this is us.
Because nilitoka asubuhi nikalima na nikaona wacha nipande hivi. You know, you get that in your life when you know you've put in the hustle and you get to a place where imejipa.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, you know, look, this is the idea I had, and look at what I have built. But the ability to do it. If you forget that the ability that we have, when we forget the knowledge, the intelligence that we have to discover, to do science is ultimately given, then we become you know, gods in and of our own selves. Tunakuwa sasa sisi ndio akusema.
Yeah.
So that became something that ilienda ikipotea. Your recognition that everything that you can do, the ability to do stuff is given to you. Unajua, ukikaa daro understand, you know, tumepitia 844, watu wako CBC na vitu zingine. You know, when you sit in class and you understand a concept and somebody else is struggling to grasp it, you know, umedu nini ndio upatiwe hiyo akili ya kuunderstand. You know what I mean? It's even that ability to understand it has been given to you. But we attribute that to our own selves when we look inwards and go like, mimi nilikuanga hata sisomi sana. Mimi nilikuanga tu by the bora nishike hiyo nini cut ni kesho, mimi naipi, you know. But there's no one you paid to be like that. You know, mimi nawe ni watu wa muziki, you know. Whom did we pay to be able to unajua wase wenye hata hawezi, yani tone. Yani no matter what you play this and you say and they say and we think it's because we are really,
because we've I've sharpened myself, my ear.
It's something, you know, we all think, but uliamkaga tu na unaweza shika tone. So so I think hiyo over time tukaanza sasa ni sisi ndio wakusema. And maybe, you know, scientists akidiscover kitu akuje kusema man, I've discovered something amazing about our God, let me show you how this works. It will be like, look at what I have discovered,
right?
You know, and it's attributed to you, and over time hiyo kitu ya kusema kurudishia Mungu hiyo glory ilikuwa iliendanga ikifade.
It's true. So it's fair to define absolute truth as truth that's based on facts. So relative truth would be now based on either our experiences or our emotions, how we feel about a situation. And I think that's how a lot of people process truth now, where they're like, you've stated, if I throw an apple up, it will fall down.
Yeah.
They say, no, that's true for you, Andy. But for me, the apple is still up there.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like, you can't tell me that the apple is not up there.
Yeah.
So what would be your response to the wave of relative truth being fronted as absolute, if you will? Because when someone says there is no absolute truth, already that's an absolute statement. So it's contradictory even in itself.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So how would you?
So
someone comes to you and tells you, I believe relative truth is the truth.
Yeah, that you believe truth is relative.
Truth is relative. It's based on mi vile naiona. What's your...
Ni hiyo kitu ya, you know, you do you, you know. You know, Kenya wewe inakubamba vile wewe unaiangalia vile mimi naifeel, vile naifeel. Hiyo ilikuwa ngoma mimi.
I feel must say yeah.
Vile naifeel.
Shout out to Shinsky.
And we're saying truth aiendangi na vile unaifeel sana. Now so first of all, I think the argument for absolute truth doesn't argue that every truth is absolute. Right?
Expound.
It doesn't say, it only argues that there exists absolute truth exists, but not that
But
all
not
truths
that all truth is
are
absolute. That's good.
For instance, you know, if you say it's 9 a.m. in the morning, that is true, but it's not an absolute truth, because there are other parts of the world where somebody can say, no, it's not 9 a.m. right now, sindio, for them.
Yeah.
But an absolute truth in time, for example, if you're talking about time, is that for example, the earth revolves around the sun.
Yeah.
You know, and it takes a year to do that. That is an absolute truth.
Yeah.
But somebody can argue, if I say saizi ni saa fulani, I can say, well, you know, tukiwa kwa Zoom call kila mtu ako na time zone zake.
Yeah, true.
Ndio.
True.
So that cannot be an absolute statement that I can make in a Zoom call with people from different regions. So the argument is that absolute truths exist. For example, we can be in that Zoom call and say we are all in this Zoom call, and that's an absolute truth. Sindio. But that it is 9 a.m. is not an absolute truth.
I get the distinction. Yeah.
Sindio. Now, so some people will argue that, you know, truth is relative, and that it depends on like you're saying, your truth or the other. But like you've mentioned, rightly, it's a self-defeating argument, because the easy way to kurudishia tu mtu hiyo swali is whether that statement is
absolute or
is relative. Like if you say that truth is relative, is that true, or is that statement relative? Wow. Because that person is not making a relative statement, claim, a relative claim. They're telling you that truth is relative, but in that claim it is an absolute. You know, it's an objective truth. Wanasema hii ni ukweli na si relative. So really hiyo relativism inakuanga ni self-defeatist sana. Because it cannot even stand on its own merit. But we live in a world where we know, if you are real enough with yourself, that there are truths that are absolute, and there are moral values and moral duties zenye ziko tu, like parenting. You know, because in a naturalistic world huwezi explain why a mother has any duty to a child. Okay, imetoka wapi that tu ameamua, because unaweza sema, well, yeah, ndio ni mama yako, but yeye ndio ameget mtoi, but unaweza fanya vile una feel. Some animals, you know, eat their young for nutrients, right? Who is to say that you know, we cannot say that, okay, mimi niliget mtoi na nilifeel nina lack proteins, you know? It would be wrong for that to happen, and that is just a moral value that is there, and it's not relative. Sindio.
Okay. I get the distinction. That's a good distinction. And you mentioned moral law. Here's my theory.
Tuambie.
I think because we are a society that has grown genuinely skeptical about things of God, and I would say rightly so, because there's a lot of people who've abused things in the name of spirituality and God, where they do all sorts of nonsense, attach it to this is a God thing. So even that skepticism, I appreciate it from people, because it means that they are seeing this is inconsistent with what is intrinsically moral law from the moral lawgiver. I think the reason why, if you are in your right mind, that you would be grieved by an atrocity towards someone is because you are created by the moral lawgiver. You understand that if you're made in God's image, even if I'm not a God believer, like innately, I know that violating you is an issue. Unless I'm not right in my head. That's fair. That's a fair statement. Now, because we've gone skeptical, we've gotten to the point where people, they still want to interact in that way, to have a moral compass, but outside of the moral compass director, who is God. So what happens is, because God is holy, and holy means that he is without sin, like sin cannot exist with him, his standards are pretty pretty incredible, right? And he knew we couldn't do that work, so he sent Jesus. Okay. Now, what happens is when you become a follower of Jesus, your affections change, the way you want to live changes, how you embrace truth changes. But if that's not if you're not on that tip, now you create a version of morality, if you will, where okay, I want to do this. I think this is good. This is good. But this one is hard. It's good, but it's hard. So I'll not do that.
cherry pick.
Let me omit that and cherry pick. So I think what relative truth has done to our culture is it's created this false reality to allow us to do what we want and still claim to be ABCD. Let's use good for instance now, where we define goodness as you ask someone off the street what is good, they'll tell you acts of benevolence and giving to the poor. It's an idea of what they think is good. But you tell that guy who's cheating on his wife he's been a good husband, good. He'll omit that. He'll be like, no, it's not so bad to have a side chick. Kwani you don't look at other babes. No, it's true. No, you don't look at other.
nijibu.
Maybe your wife is gonna watch this episode. You don't look at other women. Me. So you can see that guy, for example, if I'm using this hypothetical, he'll claim to be good because he gives to the poor. He does ABCD. But that's one thing that he omitted, where he created this relative truth, if you will, where faithfulness is not committing to what you say. Faithfulness it's when I decide to be faithful. So if you're
like kama wife amekunyima
na
amekukazia bana,
what are you going to do?
So mnataka nifanyeje?
Utafanya nini? Don't write in the comments what you do. But I guess cherry picking to the point where we've created what works for me, and it's convenient in some ways, where it doesn't allow me to see things in those absolutes, like you're saying. Like the other day I watched a documentary where there was a kid who went to school and said they identify as a cat, and now when they asked a question they meow, like they meow meow meow, and in the American context you can't question that at all because they intrinsically believe truth is relative. So they've shot themselves in the foot when someone does something that may seem absurd because it's not in corresponding with reality. They can't question it because now they've maintained that all truth is relative. Right now, if in his prime Kobe Bryant decided that he's a woman and went to the WNBA and scored 100 points every game, it's like America has no moral authority to say he's wrong. You do know that.
Imagine that, man.
Is that not crazy? Think about LeBron right now going to WNBA.
Mike Tyson, man.
It's
aingie tu boxing ya madem na kina Konje awaonyeshe fire.
It sounds crazy, sindio?
I think it's interesting that we live in a time, and I mean a couple of years ago, bana, the courageous thing would be to go to war. Those and right now the most courageous thing you can do is just call that stuff out. And say, bana, guys, this is not true. You're not a cat. As in, just telling somebody you're not a cat is one of the boldest things
that could get you cancelled.
It can get you jailed, man. It's getting to a point where you can lose custody of your kids because your kid decided they're a cat, and you told them
you're not a cat.
We do human beings in this house, and that just is crazy. So truth is we're now in an age where we have to come down to talking about what truth is. It used to be
obvious.
A lot of people would have this sort of reality ilikuanga kila mtu ako in touch with what is real and what's reality, but saizi reality inakuwa hii kitu yenye ni fluid sana, and I think it's very unloving. I think it's very unloving not to bring truth to the table and to establish what is true, because when the foundations of truth are broken, maze society, I mean, give it time, utaona vile, you know, when truth breaks down in a nation, man, that nation can't stand. You know, the society won't stand, the family unit won't stand, the community won't stand. And it's only a matter of time before it implode from within.
Yeah.
Because the world is created, you know, and the moral, if we find moral laws that are intrinsic, that are eternal, like you've just said, it then obviously to lead to conclude that there's a moral lawgiver. And the Christian, you know, belief is that the moral lawgiver is good, is a good lawgiver. And ametupatia hizi laws for our own good, si ndio ajibambe. But that based on the created world, this is if you best align with truth, then it's the best life that you can live, because umejialign na the foundations of the earth that was set, unajua. I remember somebody asking, okay, akasema, tuseme granted, you know, maybe listening to me and you talk about the fact that there is objective moral laws, like not just vile wewe unaifeel, but kuna hizi moral laws that are outside of you, na wewe ndio unafaa kuadjust vile una respond to them. So let's establish, somebody says, yes, fine, let's establish kuna objective moral laws. Even if they are there, what is a proof that zimetoka kwa God? Mbona tu zisi exist by themselves? That yes, let's acknowledge that they are there. These absolute truths are there. These moral laws are there. They exist. But then nini inatufanya to conclude that zimetoka zimetoka from an entity, and why do we call that entity God, right? And I think for me, you see, moral laws or easy moral values, they are intrinsic to personhood, right? So virtue, you know, kindness, generosity, empathy, love, forgiveness, they are all embodied in personhood. Haziwezi exist kama aziko kwa mtu.
In a vacuum.
Yeah, they don't exist in a vacuum. And so if we find them that ziko outside of us, then it just, for me, ina make sense kusema ziko basi, they also have hata hizo ziko huko juu, lazima zikuwe embodied,
right? Lazima
zikuwe in personhood, in an intelligent, benevolent being. And I think that's where we land on there has to be a God. The argument that because moral laws exist, in a point towards the fact that there is a God, sindio? So I think hiyo kwangu imekuwa, I wrestled with that kidogo, and it made a lot of sense, because as he exists kando, easy moral virtues and duties. But maze, I think hii ni generation yenye tu, may God give people the courage to speak what is true. It's one of it's the most courageous thing you can do this today, and it'll cost you in many spaces. Kuna gigs hautapata, you know, kuna nyimbo hazitachezwa places fulani, but it is what we have to bequeath the next generation with truth. Mi na we bro, tulizaliwa in a generation where
this guy is like 10 years older than me, but keep going.
Ndio. When ni Gen what? Mi ni millennial. When you are millennial.
I'm going to leave his ID screenshot.
When you hizi ndevu zako zina,
we are
when you grew up, correct me if I'm wrong, but tulikuwa na only 3 sources of info, and part of the issue is just the age that we live in. You see, me I had information yangu ilikuwa inatoka nyumbani, there's the home, school, and you know, our religious gatherings, right? Hizo ndo zilikuwa sources za info. But my kid today has,
Vast
yeah,
sources.
so vast sources of info and vast claims of truth that are coming their way. And we have to, one of the things we must help them do is how to decipher truth.
Yeah.
How to pick. Siku hizi msee akisimama mahali na anze presentation aseme, with very good English. The other problem is also msee akiongea kizungu poa.
Articulation.
Ana sounding very intelligent.
Yeah.
Msee akianza conversation aseme, research has shown. Recent research has shown, and if sijui the word, sijui nini of university, when they did a paper that came out, and hajakuambia wali interview watu wa 10. But it may sound too very intelligent,
Yeah.
and now everything that they say after that is
It's valid.
tunailap up to. But it's time, and I think it's critical for Africa, for instance, to pause and consider some of the stuff that's coming from the West. Not jua tuna conflict ile, kuna ile kitu, because education ilikam na kizungu na ilikam from the West, hatukufunzwa kuchuja.
Yeah.
Na kugola, ilikuwa kitu yote inafunzwa na kizungu, because you learned science in English, right? Everything else other than SWA in your class was taught in English. So ikikam na hiyo kizungu mazee, unaona tu, man, I guess hiyo ndio kweli. So if sema guys are born this way, you go like, you don't even have you're not going to look into it, you're not going to evaluate that and see, is this really true? And that's something that everybody must discover and reclaim. If you had it, to reclaim it, and if we didn't have it, to discover. How do we decipher truth in today's day and
helpful.
age? Yeah.
Listen, guys, we could go on and on, but we're going to put a pause on it. This is, I guess, what we want to finish with. If you're watching this and you are a Christian, I say that because you don't make other people who are Christian don't have the motivation to live in a Christ-like way until they believe. So I'm not one to say you must do this if you don't have the understanding. But if you do, then watch out for culture. When culture tries to sear your conscience and make you believe that truth is malleable, especially when it comes to truth as it pertains to morality, to righteous living. There's nothing you can do that will tick the box of I'm a good person if you're doing it outside of Christ. Christ already did the work. So I'll finish with this scripture. It's 2 Timothy. It's a famous one, and I think that's where we are in our culture. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 2-4. If you can read the whole thing, it just talks about how in the last days there'll be many things that we'll deal with. But one of the things that we're going to deal with is people suiting to their own desires, gathering around them teachers and ideologies that their itching ears want to hear. And I think that's a great way of summarizing how relative truth has been abused. It's really us surrounding ourselves with what we want to hear, and what is less offensive to us, if it's indeed asking us to live in a higher way, because living in that godlike standard is difficult if you're doing it outside of Christ. So we're going to finish it this way. Find truth, and not an idea of truth, not a policy that you think is somewhat true, but find truth.
Nimekumbuka kitu.
Yeah. Parting shot.
Tuanze na parting shot. Ulianza na definition ya truth.
Yes. Oxford
English Dictionary of Truth. The other book that you and I believe to be full of truth defines truth as a person. Ndio. Truth is a person, and this is a Christian belief and claim. You and I are truthful. We can be truthful, loving, and etc. But Jesus said this of himself, that he is truth itself.
The truth.
Not just truthful. He's not just a truthful man. But
he was the definition.
But he's truth itself. And that's something I think worth pursuing. And guys, look into what that could mean. that yeye ndio si ati yeye ni mtu wa kweli, yeye ndiyo kweli na njia. So truth is a person.
That's good. Truth is a person. Is that a Pompey line?
It is in a song as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Truth is a person you can relate to. I don't know.
We listen. Zambia, we listen, bro. We listen.
Yes.
Listen. But yo, we're going to end it here. Remember to like, share, subscribe. See you on the next episode. Peace.
Skiza flow na conversation, essentially speaking.